George Smith Patton Jr. was born on November 11th, 1885, in San Gabriel, California. He grew up in a family that emphasized military heritage, with relatives who served in the Civil War. From a young age, he focused intensely on military history, riding, and fencing. Patton studied at the Virginia Military Institute before entering the United States Military Academy at West Point. His time at West Point was marked by average academic performance, but exceptional ability in athletics and leadership. He graduated in 1909 as a cavalry officer and immediately began his career in the mounted branch of the US Army. Patton's early service years were spent learning the fundamentals of cavalry tactics and horsemanship. He participated in the 1912 Summer Olympics in Stockholm, competing in the modern pentathlon. Although he did not win a medal, his participation demonstrated his strong physical resilience and competitive nature. After returning to the United States, he continued to improve his skills in fencing and even developed his own saber design, the Model 1913 cavalry saber, which would carry his name. In 1916, Patton gained his first experience in combat operations during the Mexican punitive expedition under General John J. Pershing. He served as Pershing's aide and led a successful attack on one of Pancho Villa's commanders, Julio Cardenas. During this operation, Patton demonstrated his willingness to take action quickly and aggressively, which made an impression on Pershing and other senior leaders. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, Patton joined the newly formed Tank Corps. He recognized early the importance of armored warfare and became one of the first American officers to lead tanks in combat. During the Meuse-Argonne offensive, Patton directed tanks forward under heavy fire and was wounded while encouraging his men to advance. He received recognition for bravery and leadership. The war ended shortly after his recovery, leaving Patton convinced that armoured vehicles would become central to modern warfare. Following World War I, Patton remained in the reduced US Army, continuing to study and write extensively about mechanised warfare. Between 1920 and 1940, he developed ideas about mobility, shock action, and coordinated attack formations. He believed that speed and aggressive manoeuvring would become decisive factors in future conflicts. Patton held several training and staff assignments, working to bring armoured units into the mainstream of the Army structure. In 1940, with the outbreak of war in Europe and increasing concern about German advances, the US Army expanded rapidly. Patton received promotion and command of one of the first armoured divisions. He participated in large-scale exercises in Louisiana, where his unit performed well and helped demonstrate the importance of armoured forces. His leadership style, which included strict discipline and a demanding approach towards soldiers, created a reputation for toughness, but also respect for his results. After the United States entered World War II, Patton was assigned to North Africa for Operation Torch in 1942. He took command of the Western Task Force and later the US Second Corps, following its early defeats against German forces led by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. Patton immediately imposed stricter standards on discipline, dress, and readiness. He emphasized offensive action and improved organization, contributing to the eventual Allied success in Tunisia. His command helped restore confidence in American armoured capabilities. Patton then played a major leadership role in the invasion of Sicily in July 1943. He commanded the US 7th Army and launched rapid advances across the island. His forces captured Palermo and then moved east toward Messina. British and American forces coordinated, although this cooperation also produced friction between Patton and British General Bernard Montgomery. Patton pushed aggressively for speed, while Montgomery's forces moved more cautiously in difficult terrain. During the Sicily campaign, two major incidents occurred that would significantly impact Patton's reputation. In separate incidents, Patton confronted and slapped soldiers suffering from what would now be identified as combat stress reaction. He accused them of cowardice and demanded they return to the front lines. These actions led to official reprimands. General Dwight D. Eisenhower ordered Patton to apologize to the soldiers and to his command. The incidents became widely known and generated controversy in the American press. They showed how Patton's strict standards sometimes conflicted with the psychological realities of war. Although temporarily sidelined from frontline command, Patton continued to contribute to planning and deception efforts in preparation for the Allied invasion of France in 1944. He was placed in command of the fictitious 1st US Army Group in southeast England, helping mislead German intelligence into believing a major invasion would land at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. German commanders held him in high regard as a capable offensive leader, which made the deception more believable. Patton returned to major operational command in July 1944, taking charge of the US Third Army shortly after the breakout from Normandy. His forces rapidly advanced across France, exploiting weakened German defences. Patton prioritised constant pressure and mobility, stating, "A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week." His operational style emphasised avoiding delays, maintaining supply lines, and keeping the enemy off balance. As his armoured divisions moved across open terrain, they captured large numbers of prisoners and liberated territory quickly. However, the rapid pursuit strained logistics. Fuel shortages slowed Patton's progress and led to debate within Allied leadership about supply priorities. Eisenhower redistributed supplies to other fronts, frustrating Patton, who believed additional fuel could have allowed a breakthrough into Germany before winter. Despite these challenges, Patton's forces secured important positions along the Moselle River and advanced toward Lorraine. In December 1944, the German army launched a major counter-offensive in the Ardennes region, known as the Battle of the Bulge. Patton quickly redirected elements of the Third Army northward to relieve the encircled US forces in Bastogne. The rapid change in operational direction, completed in harsh winter conditions, demonstrated Patton's ability to adjust and act decisively. His forces helped break the siege and stabilise the front, contributing to the defeat of the German offensive. As the Allies resumed the advance into Germany in early 1945, the Third Army crossed the Rhine River and moved deep into the heart of the country. Patton's units liberated several concentration camps, where soldiers encountered scenes of mass suffering and death. Patton ensured that survivors received immediate assistance and ordered local German civilians to witness the conditions, aiming to confront them with the consequences of the regime's policies. Throughout his campaigns, Patton's interaction with both American soldiers and Allied leaders reflected his complex personality. He insisted on strict discipline and high standards, stating, "Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way." He delivered speeches that emphasized confidence, initiative, and aggressive action. Some remarks included strong language and controversial views that occasionally led to friction. Patton's belief in reincarnation and historical destiny also set him apart from other commanders, though he used such beliefs primarily to reinforce his personal motivation and leadership mindset. As the war in Europe neared its end, Patton became involved in administrative responsibilities, including military governance in southern Germany. His public comments during this period created additional controversy. Some statements appeared to criticise Allied policy toward defeated German officials and military veterans. He compared the Nazi Party's lower-level members to members of political parties in the United States and expressed concern that Soviet strategic intentions posed a future threat. These remarks conflicted with official policy and diplomatic messaging. Eisenhower relieved him of his role as military governor and reassigned him to command the 15th Army, whose tasks primarily involved historical documentation rather than combat operations. Patton also made remarks expressing anti-Semitic viewpoints, which were recorded in his diaries and observed by colleagues. These statements caused concern among superiors who expected senior leaders to support post-war policies and humanitarian responsibilities. Patton's private and public comments during this period created an image of a commander struggling to align with the political and diplomatic environment required after the fighting ended. The war in Europe concluded in May 1945, leaving Patton disappointed that he would not play a role in a conflict against the Soviet Union, whose intentions he distrusted. He continued to express frustration with strategic decisions and the direction of post-war policy. On December 9th, 1945, while on a hunting trip near Mannheim, Germany, Patton was seriously injured in an automobile accident. The vehicle he was riding in collided with another vehicle at low speed, but Patton suffered severe spinal injuries that left him paralysed. He was hospitalised in Heidelberg and died on December 21st, 1945. He was buried at the Luxembourg American Cemetery among soldiers who had served under his command. Patton's career left a lasting impact on the development of armoured warfare and American military culture. His emphasis on decisive action, mobility, and leadership under pressure influenced future generations of army officers. Many of his quotes, such as "Courage is fear holding on a minute longer," continued to be used in military training environments. His combination of operational success and public controversy made him one of the most studied American generals of the 20th century. Historians have examined Patton's contributions from multiple perspectives. Some emphasize his operational brilliance, noting that his units achieved rapid advances and overcame difficult challenges. Others point to the cost of aggressive strategies and the psychological demands placed on soldiers under his command. The slapping incidents and controversial statements remain part of his legacy, demonstrating the complexity of leadership in wartime environments. The German military considered Patton one of the most dangerous Allied commanders. German intelligence often identified his presence as a sign of impending attack. His reputation influenced the enemy decision-making and contributed to the effectiveness of Allied deception strategies. Even when temporarily removed from frontline command, German planners continued to anticipate operations under his leadership. After his death, Patton's legacy continued to evolve through biographies, films, and military studies. He became widely known to the public through the 1970 film Patton, in which actor George C. Scott portrayed him as a strong-willed and demanding leader. The film helped introduce his personality and leadership style to a broad audience, but also sparked renewed discussion about the differences between public perception and historical documentation. Patton left behind extensive writings, including diaries and letters, which provide insight into his strategic thinking and personal beliefs. He viewed war as a test of leadership and national strength, arguing that success required unwavering determination and readiness to seize opportunities. He wrote, "Fixed fortifications are monuments to the stupidity of man." Emphasizing his preference for maneuver and offensive operations, his writings continue to influence discussions about military strategy and leadership under pressure. Patton's ability to motivate troops, maintain operational tempo, and achieve difficult objectives under challenging conditions contributed significantly to Allied success in Europe. His leadership demonstrated the potential of armoured forces when combined with effective logistics, intelligence, and coordination. Even critics acknowledged that Patton's drive and organisational skills made him a key figure in the defeat of Nazi Germany. His career reflected the broader transformation of the US Army from a small interwar organisation into a major global force. Through his actions in North Africa, Sicily, France, and Germany, Patton helped shape the image of the American military during World War II. His complex character, marked by both strengths and flaws, continues to draw interest from historians, military professionals, and the general public. Patton's understanding of morale and leadership communication played a major role in his command approach. He frequently visited frontline troops to encourage direct engagement and foster confidence. He wore recognizable uniforms and equipment, including ivory-handled pistols, to project authority and visibility. He believed that a commander should be seen and heard by soldiers, offering clear direction and expectations. He also valued the role of discipline in building combat effectiveness. He stated, "If everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking." Patton maintained that well-trained and organised units perform better under stress, and he enforced strict regulations to support this principle. His disciplinary methods occasionally caused disagreement with other senior leaders who preferred less confrontational approaches. Despite his strong views, Patton was capable of recognising mistakes. His mandated apologies after the slapping incidents demonstrated his willingness to accept responsibility when directed by superiors. Although he privately disagreed with how the incidents were handled, he complied with orders and continued to focus on military objectives. His conflicts with strategic command structures reflected broader debates within the Allied coalition. Patton believed that the war could be shortened through sustained aggressive action into Germany before the German army could recover. Eisenhower and other leaders adopted a broad front strategy designed to balance political considerations, resource limitations, and coalition priorities. Patton's perspectives sometimes clashed with this approach, leading to tension within the command environment. Patton understood the importance of logistics and mobility, emphasizing the need to maintain fuel, ammunition, and supply chains that could keep pace with rapid advances. His staff developed systems to support armoured operations over extended distances. However, the speed he demanded occasionally exceeded the capabilities of available infrastructure and support units. This created challenges when weather, terrain, or enemy defences disrupted momentum. He encouraged innovation in tactics and equipment. During the war, he advocated for improved tank designs and combined arms coordination, integrating infantry, artillery, engineers, and air support. His commitment to tactical development contributed to the increased effectiveness of American armoured divisions throughout the European campaign. Patton's posthumous image became associated with determination, resilience, and confidence in operational leadership. His quotes and speeches continued to appear in military training, corporate leadership programs, and public culture. However, scholars continued to analyse the full scope of his conduct, including remarks that reflected the racial and political attitudes of his time, but also raised modern ethical concerns. Patton's approach to leadership included constant emphasis on developing subordinate commanders. He expected officers under him to make decisions quickly and act independently when opportunities appeared. He believed hesitation gave opponents the advantage. He stated, "A pint of sweat saves a gallon of blood," reinforcing his insistence on thorough training and preparation to reduce future casualties. Officers who failed to meet his expectations risked reassignment, but those who succeeded earned his trust and continued responsibility. Patton's attention to detail extended to battlefield reconnaissance and intelligence. He often studied maps in depth and visited frontline positions personally to gain accurate situational awareness. He believed that commanders should see conditions directly, rather than rely solely on reports. His presence near the front allowed him to make rapid adjustments during operations, though it also exposed him to personal danger. During the North African campaign, he frequently observed enemy positions using binoculars while under fire, a practice that reinforced his image among troops as a leader willing to share risk. His ability to cooperate with other Allied commanders varied depending on circumstances. His rivalry with Montgomery was well known and rooted in differing philosophies of command. Patton favoured rapid movement and exploitation of breakthroughs, while Montgomery favoured detailed planning and preparation before major attacks. Despite professional differences, both commanders contributed significantly to Allied success. Their competitive relationship sometimes encouraged innovation and determination, but it also produced tension within the coalition. Patton's speeches to troops were memorable and sometimes controversial. He did not hesitate to use profanity or blunt expressions to make his points clear. His speeches focused on pride in service, the importance of completing assigned missions, and the belief that offensive force was the key to victory. Soldiers who heard him often left with stronger determination to perform their duties. His communication style became part of his legacy, influencing later portrayals of leadership in wartime. The rapid progress of the Third Army in France created strategic opportunities, but also new challenges. As forces approached the German border, resistance increased. Fortified positions, natural obstacles, and organised counterattacks slowed the pace of advance. Patton focused on maintaining initiative through continuous pressure and flexible manoeuvre. He integrated infantry to secure key terrain, while armour exploited openings, aiming to prevent the enemy from re-establishing stable defensive lines. During the Lorraine campaign in late 1944, Difficult weather and terrain disrupted mobility and logistics. Patton expressed frustration with slowed progress, though historians later noted that heavy rains, defensive fortifications, and supply shortages limited the ability of armoured units to operate at peak performance. The campaign illustrated that even aggressive strategy depends on environmental and logistical factors beyond the commander's direct control. The Battle of the Bulge became one of the defining moments of Patton's wartime service. When the German offensive began, Patton anticipated the need for rapid adjustments. He had already directed his staff to develop contingency plans that allowed his units to pivot north quickly, if required. When the situation in Bastogne became critical, his forces executed one of the most rapid large-scale directional changes of the war. On December 26, 1944, elements of the Third Army reached the besieged city and established a corridor for relief. This action helped shift momentum in favour of the Allies. Patton's logistical officers played a vital role in the success of winter operations. Cold temperatures affected vehicles, soldiers and supply routes. Patton insisted on continuous movement despite adverse conditions. He stated, "There is no such thing as a consolidation of positions on the offensive," underlining his commitment to initiative and momentum. During the final advance into Germany in 1945, Patton's forces captured major industrial and transportation centres. They crossed the Rhine at Oppenheim on March 22nd, surprising German defenders who expected a more concentrated crossing at other points. This manoeuvre demonstrated Patton's willingness to exploit enemy assumptions and maintain unpredictability in operations. His units then advanced into central and southern Germany, contributing to the collapse of remaining German military resistance. As the war approached its conclusion, Patton advocated for continued preparedness because he believed global security challenges would persist. He viewed the Soviet Union's growing influence in Eastern Europe as a potential threat to Western interests. Some statements implied that the United States might someday face conflict with the Soviet military. These views conflicted with diplomatic policies focused on maintaining Allied cooperation during the post-war transition. As a result, his public comments required careful management by superiors. Patton's involvement in military government after Germany's surrender brought different responsibilities than field command. He worked with civilian officials to establish order, rebuild essential infrastructure, and manage displaced populations. However, his remarks comparing former Nazi Party members with political parties in the United States caused concern among Allied authorities. His superiors concluded that public trust and political stability required careful oversight of individuals associated with the previous regime. Patton's perspective on military governance reflected his focus on immediate administrative needs rather than the broader implications of political rehabilitation. His diaries and personal notes from this period reveal conflict between his loyalty to the military profession and the realities of diplomatic objectives. He believed that soldiers who had focused on fighting should not be the primary targets of political sanctions. Others, including Eisenhower, saw the removal of officials with ties to the Nazi regime as necessary to prevent future extremism. This disagreement contributed to his reassignment. After taking command of the 15th Army, Patton directed efforts to document historical lessons from the European campaign. Though he accepted the assignment, he remained eager for active command and expressed disappointment that opportunities to confront new threats were limited. His final months included travel, writing, and reflection on the war. On December 9th, 1945, while riding in a staff car with General Hobart Gay near Mannheim, Patton's vehicle collided with a US Army truck. The accident caused relatively minor injuries to other occupants, but Patton suffered severe neck trauma resulting in spinal cord damage. Surgeons attempted to stabilise his condition, but he remained paralysed from the neck down. He remained conscious and communicative for several days, discussing the war and his life with visitors. On December 21st, 1945, he died from complications related to his injuries. Speculation regarding the circumstances of Patton's accident appeared soon after his death. Some theories suggested that foreign agents or political opponents may have played a role. However, Investigations found no evidence supporting intentional harm. The majority of historians agree that the accident resulted from an unfortunate combination of factors rather than deliberate action. Patton's death ended the career of one of the most prominent American generals of the 20th century. Patton's influence extended beyond battlefield achievements. His leadership principles, including direct engagement with subordinates, disciplined execution of orders, and focus on decisive action, remain studied in military institutions worldwide. Discussions about leadership under pressure frequently reference Patton's approach as a model for motivating large organizations during complex operations. His contributions to the development of US armored doctrine continue to shape strategic thinking. He helped shift the army from reliance on static fortifications and limited mobility toward more flexible and dynamic warfare concepts. His belief that well-coordinated mechanized units could achieve rapid breakthroughs became a core element of modern military operations. Patton's legacy also includes ethical considerations. Scholars study the consequences of disciplinary practices that emphasized strict obedience and toughness, assessing both their effectiveness and their potential to cause psychological strain. His slapping incidents remain part of discussions about leadership accountability, combat stress, and the responsibility of commanders to support soldiers facing the mental demands of warfare. His views on race and culture reflected attitudes common in his era, but also included remarks that modern audiences find objectionable. He expressed racial stereotypes in letters and diaries, particularly toward African Americans, Jews, and other groups. However, his actions in the field demonstrate a more complex record. He utilized African American units in combat during the European campaign, including the 761 Tank Battalion, which performed effectively. He later advocated that this unit receive recognition for its contributions. Historians analyze this complexity when assessing his personal leadership values and decision-making. Patton's interactions with the press occasionally produced friction. He did not always align with messaging priorities established by higher headquarters. Public remarks sometimes created complications when political leaders sought careful coordination of information. After certain incidents, such as comments about future conflict with the Soviet Union, his superiors restricted his public speaking to reduce potential diplomatic consequences. These concerns showed the challenges military leaders face when their operational views intersect with political strategy. Despite his challenges, Patton consistently articulated his belief that military success required bold action. He stated, "Success is how high you bounce when you hit bottom, emphasizing resilience in the face of obstacles." He viewed hesitation as a greater threat than the risks associated with aggressive maneuvers. This philosophy guided his decisions throughout his career. Patton also recognized the importance of adaptability. He studied enemy tactics closely and sought ways to counter them through improved coordination and equipment. He understood the role of air-ground integration and encouraged cooperation with Allied air forces. His planning for the relief of Bastogne involved coordination that took advantage of available air support when conditions permitted. His soldiers often described him as demanding but inspiring. Those who served under him acknowledged that his expectations could be difficult to meet, but many believed his standards contributed to success and survival. Patton aimed to create units capable of maintaining operational momentum even under unfavourable conditions. He noted that the ability to recover from setbacks and continue forward movement was a key measure of combat effectiveness. The strategic environment of World War II required cooperation among many Allied nations. Patton's confidence in American capabilities sometimes affected relations with other forces. However, commanders such as Eisenhower recognized his value and included him in major operations despite earlier controversies. His return to command after the Sicily incidents demonstrated the Army's recognition that his operational strengths outweighed the potential drawbacks of his personal style. Patton's legacy includes a significant place in American public memory of World War II. His exploits in North Africa, Sicily, and Europe gained widespread attention through news reports, speeches, and post-war media portrayals. His appearance, distinctive manner of speech, and firm presence contributed to a recognizable image that represented determination and offensive spirit. He often emphasized the sacrifices soldiers made during the war. He visited hospitals and spoke with wounded troops to maintain their morale and reassure them that their efforts contributed to overall success. He recognized that soldiers needed understanding and support while also enforcing his expectation that units remain ready and disciplined. In examining Patton's record, historians recognize both innovation and rigidity. His emphasis on continuous movement helped shape modern armoured doctrine, but his intolerance of perceived weakness occasionally clashed with evolving understanding of psychological well-being. His belief in the decisive importance of individual courage and leadership sometimes overshadowed appreciation for technological developments and broader logistical systems. Yet, his command demonstrated that aggressive strategy combined with strong logistical organisation could produce rapid and effective results. His role in breaking through German defences following the Normandy breakout and maintaining pressure during the Ardennes campaign helped accelerate the collapse of Nazi military capacity. His contributions formed an integral part of the Allied victory in Europe. Patton's leadership philosophy extended beyond battlefield tactics. He studied history extensively and believed that past conflicts held lessons that could guide present decisions. He referenced classical warriors and campaigns in his remarks and writing. This historical perspective informed his emphasis on offensive principles and manoeuvre warfare. He argued that success depended on controlling the pace and direction of battle, and he sought to impose that control through continuous pressure against the enemy. His personal discipline reinforced his expectations for others. Patton maintained strict daily routines focused on physical readiness and professional study. He expected officers and enlisted personnel alike to understand the capabilities of their units and equipment thoroughly. His belief that preparedness reduced unnecessary casualties drove rigorous training programs designed to ensure readiness for sudden changes in operational conditions. Patton also demonstrated an ability to adapt to the expanding role of technology in warfare. He monitored developments in armoured vehicle design, communication systems, and air support integration. Although he sometimes expressed skepticism toward overly complex equipment that could complicate logistics, he advocated for improvements in firepower, mobility, and protection. His emphasis on coordination among combined arms elements supported his theory that modern warfare required synchronized action among all components of the military. Within the Third Army, Patton cultivated an organizational structure that rewarded initiative and rapid decision-making. He encouraged commanders to exploit opportunities without waiting for detailed instructions when circumstances demanded immediate action. This decentralized approach relied on trust and competence among subordinate leaders. It contributed to the Third Army's reputation for rapid movement and tactical flexibility. Patton's conduct during the liberation of France included logistical challenges associated with rapid territorial expansion. The Red Ball Express, a major supply effort involving truck convoys, played a crucial role in providing fuel, ammunition, and food to advancing forces. Patton recognised that operational success depended on sustained logistical support and frequently acknowledged the contributions of transportation and maintenance personnel. He understood that even the best tactics would fail if vehicles lacked fuel or mobility. His commitment to operational momentum often required adapting to political considerations. Allied leaders needed to balance national priorities and public expectations with military strategy. Patton expressed frustration when decisions limited his ability to pursue attacks, but he nonetheless complied with directives from Eisenhower and other superiors. This balance between initiative and obedience reflected the complexities of coalition warfare. As the war progressed, Patton increasingly viewed German defensive positions as temporary obstacles rather than decisive threats. His belief that the enemy could not recover fully from successive defeats shaped his advocacy for continuous advancement. When weather and terrain slowed operations, he urged efforts to maintain readiness to exploit future opportunities. This persistence contributed to steady progress even under adverse conditions. The Third Army's role in liberating concentration camps, including Buchenwald and several smaller camps, exposed Patton and his troops to the consequences of Nazi policies. Patton reacted with a combination of shock and resolve. He ordered German civilians to witness the conditions firsthand and assist with burial and care for survivors. These actions demonstrated his understanding that military victory alone did not address the full humanitarian crisis in Europe. Patton's interactions with Allied civilians and local administrations during the occupation period revealed both strengths and limitations. He prioritised restoring essential services and maintaining security. However, his remarks about political affiliations and former Nazi Party membership conflicted with broader reconstruction policies. His approach focused more on technical competence and order than on denazification and political accountability. Eisenhower and other leaders emphasised the need for comprehensive oversight to prevent future instability. In private writings, Patton expressed concern that political pressures might undermine long-term security. His criticism of Soviet intentions reflected growing tensions that would later define the early Cold War. Nevertheless, diplomatic leaders considered open statements on such matters premature and potentially harmful to Allied unity. The restrictions placed on Patton's public speaking underscored the transition from wartime command to post-war diplomacy. His final assignment, directing historical documentation, highlighted the importance of recording lessons from major operations. Patton supported detailed analysis of planning decisions, logistical practices, and tactical execution. He understood that future military leaders would rely on these records to improve preparedness for potential conflicts. Despite his disappointment in not commanding forces in the Pacific or receiving other active roles, he remained committed to contributing to institutional knowledge. Patton's death brought widespread acknowledgement of his service. Military leaders around the world recognised his role in developing armoured warfare and leading major operations in the European theatre. His burial in Luxembourg reflected his desire to rest among soldiers who served under his command. Thousands visited his gravesite in the years following the war, reflecting enduring respect for his leadership. The study of Patton in the years following his death expanded across academic, military, and public domains. Biographies examined his personality, decision-making, and strategic impact. Military education programs analysed his campaigns as examples of effective operational art. Public representations, including documentaries and films, highlighted his distinctive style and controversial remarks. These portrayals contributed to continued debate about the balance between his strengths and weaknesses. Patton's writing provided insight into his internal thought process. He spoke openly about the psychological aspects of leadership, noting that confidence projected by a commander could influence the morale of entire units. He believed that soldiers responded to leaders who displayed certainty in challenging circumstances. This emphasis on mental resilience aligned with his insistence on maintaining forward momentum during operations. He also expressed concern that misinterpretation of leadership actions could distort history. His diaries reveal frustration that some incidents, such as the slapping controversy, overshadowed broader contributions. While he acknowledged the appropriateness of official discipline, he regretted that such events received public attention higher than tactical success or saved lives. These reflections demonstrated his awareness of the role of public perception in shaping reputations. In analysing Patton's record, scholars note that his approach was shaped by both personal conviction and professional study. His belief in decisive offensive action drew from historical examples of leaders who achieved success through rapid movement and psychological dominance. His appreciation for the impact of morale influenced his efforts to create a sense of momentum and inevitability within his command. However, the same characteristics that supported success also contributed to controversy. His intolerance for indecision sometimes led to insufficient appreciation of the psychological effects of prolonged combat on soldiers. His remarks about occupied populations and political developments occasionally lacked the diplomatic restraint expected of senior commanders. These issues form an important part of discussions about the responsibilities of leadership in complex environments. Patton's career also invites examination of the tension between individual initiative and organisational control. The US Army valued innovation, but required adherence to broader strategic goals. Patton pushed boundaries regularly, both in operations and in public statements. His superiors balanced recognition of his accomplishments with the need to ensure unity within Allied leadership. Despite occasional disagreements, Eisenhower consistently acknowledged Patton's importance to the overall campaign. During the war, Patton earned the respect of adversaries as well as allies. German intelligence closely monitored his movements and identified his presence as a potential indicator of major offensives. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring and other German commanders considered Patton one of the most capable Allied leaders. His reputation for aggressive action influenced German defensive preparations and contributed to the success of deception operations before D-Day. Patton's beliefs about reincarnation and destiny remained a personal aspect of his life. While he spoke about past battles and historical figures as though he had experienced them, he primarily used such references as motivational tools. These beliefs did not interfere with his ability to analyse present circumstances objectively, but illustrated his tendency to draw inspiration from history. His emphasis on personal leadership extended to appearance and presentation. He believed uniforms and visible symbols of authority influenced discipline and confidence. His own distinctive attire made him easily identifiable on the battlefield. This visibility reinforced his role and allowed soldiers to associate his presence with operational direction. Patton understood that warfare required both physical resources and psychological preparedness. He emphasized that fear was a natural response but insisted that training and discipline could control it. He noted that leadership involved creating an environment where soldiers could overcome fear through collective purpose and confidence in command decisions. His professional relationship with Eisenhower demonstrated mutual respect despite differences in style. Eisenhower valued Patton's operational effectiveness and sought to employ his abilities where they would have the greatest impact. Patton recognized Eisenhower's role in managing coalition strategy, even when he disagreed with specific decisions. Their cooperation throughout the war contributed to coordinated Allied action and ultimately to victory in Europe. Patton's work to integrate African American units into operational roles contributed to discussions about racial equality in the military. Although his private views sometimes included stereotypes, he acknowledged performance and recommended recognition for units that demonstrated effectiveness. This complexity reflects broader contradictions in American society during the period. His actions occasionally helped advance the perception that performance should determine opportunity regardless of race. After the war, Patton's influence continued in the development of US armoured forces during the Cold War. The Army adopted concepts supporting rapid manoeuvre and combined arms integration, reflecting lessons from the European theatre. Patton's arguments for readiness to respond to emerging threats aligned with evolving strategic doctrine, emphasizing the importance of deterrence and the ability to act decisively if required. His emphasis on maintaining the initiative in warfare remained a central principle in military training. Officers studied his campaigns to understand the importance of exploiting opportunities quickly and coordinating forces effectively. Analysts noted that while technological advances continued, leadership and decision-making remained crucial to success. Patton's role in shaping public expectations of military leadership also persisted. His speeches and actions communicated a vision of command that valued courage, clarity, and decisiveness. His personal flaws and public controversies added depth to his historical profile, providing material for discourse on the ethical responsibilities of command. Through continued study, Patton remains a focal point in discussions about balancing aggressive operational strategy with broader political and humanitarian considerations. His career demonstrates the necessity of aligning military objectives with coalition priorities and national policy. The evolution of his role from combat commander to administrator illustrates the changing demands placed on military leaders during and after major conflict. Patton's legacy is therefore multifaceted. He is remembered as a pioneer in mechanized warfare, a commander capable of rapid and decisive action, and a leader whose personal convictions sometimes challenged the boundaries of military and political authority. His career offers lessons in both success and limitation, encouraging comprehensive analysis within professional military education. His life story also resonates beyond military audiences. Public recognition of his contributions reflects an appreciation for leadership during complex and dangerous circumstances. His determination and confidence provided inspiration during a critical period of global conflict. At the same time, acknowledgement of his misjudgments supports continued dialogue about accountability and ethical conduct. The continued presence of Patton in academic writing, leadership instruction, and media demonstrates enduring interest in his approach to command. His influence extends to modern studies of organizational behavior, strategic decision-making, and the psychological dimensions of leadership. His victories in North Africa, Sicily, France, and Germany remain important examples of operational coordination and maneuver warfare. Patton's visibility as a public figure during the war set him apart from many other commanders. Reporters frequently covered his movements, speeches, and battlefield results. Although this attention promoted Allied morale, it also meant that any missteps received widespread coverage. Patton understood the importance of public perception, but sometimes underestimated how statements during wartime could generate long-term consequences. His remarks, while often intended for military audiences, occasionally reached broader publics who interpreted them differently. The slapping incidents in Sicily remain among the most scrutinized moments of his career. When Patton encountered soldiers suffering from exhaustion and psychological strain, he expected physical injury as the primary justification for withdrawal from the front. Medical understanding of combat stress was still developing, and Patton's reaction demonstrated a lack of awareness of its severity and legitimacy. Afterward, he complied with Eisenhower's orders to apologize, speaking individually with affected personnel. Although he accepted responsibility for the error, the incidents influenced how senior leaders evaluated his emotional control and judgment. German commanders followed developments regarding Patton closely. When Allied intelligence spread information suggesting Patton would lead the first major assault into Western Europe, German leadership considered it credible. They respected his operational record and viewed him as the primary threat among Allied generals. This perception played a major role in the success of Operation Fortitude, the deception plan that helped conceal the true location of the Normandy landings. Thus, Patton's reputation itself became an asset to Allied strategy. Even after the Normandy invasion, German intelligence continued to monitor Patton, expecting that his presence signalled important offensives. This belief contributed to German misinterpretations of Allied planning and allowed the Allies greater operational flexibility. Patton's notoriety therefore influenced both tactical engagement and broader strategic outcomes. Patton's interest in combined arms operations reflected the evolving nature of warfare. Effective coordination between armour, infantry, artillery, and air support became a defining feature of successful campaigns in Western Europe. Patton frequently credited the contributions of support units and recognised that combat effectiveness depended on the integration of all elements. His ability to coordinate different branches of the military helped achieve breakthroughs that more fragmented efforts might not have produced. Although Patton emphasised decisive action, he also valued planning. He developed detailed operational proposals and encouraged staff officers to anticipate multiple possible scenarios. His preparation for the German Ardennes offensive demonstrated awareness of enemy capabilities and intentions. He recognised that even a temporarily weakened opponent could launch significant attacks when sufficient resources remained. His contingency plans allowed rapid response when events demanded immediate action. Historically, assessments of Patton's strategic perspective vary. Some argue that his belief in sustained offensive pressure shortened the war by preventing German forces from reorganising. Others suggest that occasional overextension posed risks that required correction by higher command. These differing interpretations highlight the complexity of operating within coalition structures where national interests and logistical limitations shape strategic decisions. Patton's commitment to high standards of discipline extended to maintaining equipment. He frequently inspected vehicles and weapons to ensure readiness. Soldiers under his command understood that he expected immediate action to correct deficiencies. This attention to detail reduced mechanical failures and supported sustained operations over long distances. Maintenance personnel played an essential role in enabling rapid movement, and Patton acknowledged their contributions publicly.
During the post-war period, his administrative responsibilities included oversight of civilian affairs, restoration of essential services, and supervision of former enemy personnel. Patton approached these tasks with a focus on restoring order quickly. However, he underestimated the symbolic importance of removing individuals associated with the Nazi regime from positions of authority. His comments suggesting leniency were interpreted as insensitivity to the atrocities uncovered in concentration camps and to the political implications of reappointing former officials. This tension contributed to the decision to reassign him. Patton's belief in the future threat posed by the Soviet Union emerged from his observations during the latter stages of the war. He saw Soviet expansion into Eastern Europe as a potential challenge to post-war stability. Although his concerns foreshadowed later geopolitical developments, senior leaders viewed his remarks as disruptive at a time when maintaining Allied unity remained essential. His perspective illustrates the shift from wartime cooperation to emerging Cold War rivalry. The circumstances of Patton's death ensured that speculation and alternative explanations would persist. Some viewed the accident as an improbable end for a commander who had survived months of frontline exposure. However, investigations and historical analyses consistently support the conclusion that the collision resulted from chance rather than intent. Patton's passing at the age of 60 ended a career marked by significant achievements and ongoing debate about command responsibility and personal conduct. Patton's impact on U.S. Army doctrine is evident in continued emphasis on mobility and combined arms coordination. The development of armored maneuver forces during the Cold War drew from his wartime experience. Training programs stressed leadership initiative and rapid decision-making, qualities associated with his approach. Officers studied Third Army operations to understand how to generate momentum and exploit tactical opportunities before the enemy could respond. In leadership studies, Patton serves as both a model and a subject of critique. His ability to motivate troops through presence, communication, and example demonstrates the importance of personal leadership qualities in combat environments. However, his shortcomings illustrate the need to balance assertiveness with emotional awareness and strategic restraint. Military education includes analysis of his career to encourage critical evaluation of command decisions. Beyond military institutions, Patton's legacy influences broader cultural perceptions of the American role in World War II. His persona became associated with determination and the will to overcome adversity. Public representations of the war often highlight his confidence and uncompromising drive. The 1970 film Patton played a significant role in shaping popular understanding of his character, though historians continue to emphasize distinctions between dramatization and documented history. Patton's writings remain a valuable source for researchers studying command philosophy and personal reflection under wartime stress. He discussed the balance between planning and improvisation, the role of instinct in combat decisions, and the psychological burden borne by leaders responsible for thousands of lives. His recognition that commanders must project certainty even when uncertain themselves underscores the complexity of leadership at the operational level. His views on courage emphasized not the absence of fear, but control over it. He argued that training, discipline, and confidence in leadership reduced fear's impact on performance. His statements on this subject influenced military leadership models and continue to appear in instructional contexts. Patton's incorporation of historical awareness into military planning highlights the value of studying previous conflicts. He argued that failure to understand history increased the likelihood of repeated mistakes. His efforts to preserve records through the 15th Army reflect his recognition that future leaders would need accurate analysis of past operations. The question of Patton's relationship with his soldiers remains central to debates about his leadership. Some veterans described him as harsh but fair, noting that his strict expectations ensured preparedness and ultimately reduced casualties by fostering success in battle. Others felt his rigid enforcement of discipline failed to account for the mental strain of prolonged combat. These differing perspectives underscore the diversity of human responses to leadership styles. Patton's approach to command also reveals insights about the distribution of authority in large organizations. He delegated significant decision-making power to lower-level commanders, but expected alignment with his intent. This principle, commonly referred to as mission command, remains influential in modern doctrine, encouraging initiative while maintaining unity of effort. During the European campaign, Patton showed awareness of the importance of civilian populations in military operations. He emphasized maintaining discipline to prevent looting and mistreatment of civilians. He recognized that relationships with local communities affected the ability to operate effectively. Although his statements sometimes reflected cultural assumptions of his time, he worked to prevent actions that could undermine military objectives or post-war stability. He also acknowledged the role of international cooperation in achieving victory. Although competitive and occasionally critical of Allied partners, Patton understood that success required collaboration. His professionalism in coordinating with British and French forces during key operations demonstrated commitment to the broader coalition mission. Patton's personal habits, including constant reading and analysis of military texts, contributed to his preparedness for emerging challenges. He studied enemy doctrine and used captured documents to refine tactical decisions. His willingness to update plans based on new information demonstrated adaptability, which historians identify as a key factor in Third Army's operational success. The psychological dimension of warfare played an important role in Patton's thinking. He believed that the perception of unstoppable momentum could undermine enemy morale and lead to collapse even before final engagements. He aimed to create conditions where opponents felt resistance was futile, reducing the need for prolonged battles. This focus on psychological effects is often cited as a major strength of his leadership. Patton's contributions to the liberation of Western Europe remain a significant part of World War II history. His command demonstrated the potential of mechanized forces to transform the pace of modern conflict. His emphasis on speed, coordination, and initiative helped break German defenses and accelerate Allied victory. Patton's role in shaping the future of the U.S. Army extended beyond his lifetime through the influence of those who served under him. Many officers who experienced his leadership later advanced to higher ranks and incorporated his principles into training and doctrine. They emphasized preparedness, initiative at lower levels of command, and the need for commanders to maintain momentum during combat operations. These lessons became part of institutional knowledge that informed Army modernization during the Cold War. Patton's willingness to empower subordinates created an environment where initiative could flourish. He often relied on division and corps commanders to interpret his overall intent and act accordingly. This approach encouraged flexibility in rapidly changing battle conditions and contributed to the Third Army's ability to maintain pressure even when communication was disrupted. His leadership style demonstrated that trust between senior and subordinate commanders enhances operational effectiveness. Historical examinations of Patton's career frequently highlight the relationship between personality and performance. His assertive character supported decisive decision-making, but the same traits sometimes led to conflict or misunderstanding. Scholars note that Patton faced challenges when transitioning from wartime conditions, where rapid action was rewarded, to post-war governance, which required caution and diplomacy. This transition illustrated the difference between operational leadership in combat and the political environment that follows major conflict. Patton's diaries and letters reveal how deeply he felt the burden of command. He wrote about the emotional impact of ordering soldiers into battle and expressed respect for their willingness to endure hardship. He frequently visited wounded personnel in hospitals and acknowledged their sacrifices. His speeches and statements, while sometimes forceful, consistently emphasized that victory depended on the dedication of ordinary soldiers.
During the Sicily campaign, Patton's rapid advance demonstrated his operational instinct. His decision to pursue a bold movement toward Palermo expanded Allied control of the island and disrupted enemy defences. However, this manoeuvre also intensified competition with British forces, creating tension within the coalition. Although historians debate the strategic necessity of capturing Palermo, the move highlighted Patton's belief in the effectiveness of unexpected action to maintain initiative. The relief of Bastogne remains one of the most studied examples of Patton's ability to execute rapid operational manoeuvre. His staff's advanced planning allowed the Third Army to respond immediately when German forces surrounded the 101st Airborne Division. The ability to redirect major units more than 90 degrees in direction under winter conditions demonstrated command competency and logistical coordination. This feat earned recognition as a significant contribution to reversing German momentum during the Battle of the Bulge. Patton also contributed to the liberation of several cities and regions in France and Germany. His forces entered key industrial and administrative centres, seizing critical infrastructure. By capturing bridges, supply depots, and transportation networks, the Third Army reduced the enemy's capacity to continue the fight. Patton's belief in striking at logistical vulnerabilities aligned with his understanding of total war, where success depends on undermining the opponent's ability to sustain operations. As the war advanced into Germany, Patton prioritised the destruction of enemy formations rather than occupation of territory. He believed that eliminating opposing forces would shorten the conflict and reduce casualties. His approach encouraged engagements designed to encircle and capture large numbers of German troops. Such tactics resulted in significant enemy losses and accelerated the collapse of resistance on the Western Front. Patton recognised the role of intelligence in guiding operations. He insisted on thorough gathering and evaluation of information from reconnaissance units, captured documents, and civilian reports. His reliance on timely intelligence supported rapid adaptation to battlefield developments. He frequently demanded updated maps and reports to maintain awareness of enemy positions and capabilities. The intensity of Patton's leadership sometimes strained relationships within his own command. Officers occasionally struggled to meet his high expectations, and personnel who could not adapt to his pace received reassignment. However, this approach ensured that those who remained in key positions were capable of executing complex manoeuvres under pressure. Patton's management of human resources reflected his belief that military organisations must optimise talent to achieve maximum effectiveness. Patton's views on warfare extended into philosophical territory. He considered conflict a recurring aspect of human history and believed that military leaders must prepare for future wars even during peacetime. His statements often reflected a conviction that global stability depends on military readiness. While some contemporaries interpreted these views as overly aggressive, they aligned with emerging concerns about new geopolitical challenges following the defeat of Nazi Germany. In administering occupied areas, Patton focused on restoring basic functionality to civilian populations. He emphasised reopening schools, repairing infrastructure, and re-establishing local governance. These actions contributed to stabilisation, but also generated controversy when Patton appeared to prioritise administrative competence over political accountability. This tension led to differing interpretations of his approach among historians evaluating the objectives of post-war policy. The political dimension of Patton's leadership became more significant near the end of his career. His comments expressing concern about Soviet expansion suggested a shift in strategic attention from Germany to broader European security. Senior leaders recognised the validity of some of Patton's assessments, but required discretion due to the delicate diplomatic environment. This difference in priorities contributed to limitations on his public communication. Patton's personal relationships with fellow commanders varied. He respected Eisenhower's ability to manage a complex coalition, but sometimes expressed frustration with decisions he felt delayed opportunities for decisive victory. Despite disagreements, both leaders maintained professional cooperation essential for Allied success. Patton also corresponded with Omar Bradley, whose more measured style contrasted with Patton's aggressiveness. Their working relationship included both close coordination and occasional disagreement. Throughout the war, Patton demonstrated a capacity to learn from his experiences. After each campaign, he evaluated successes and failures, using observations to refine tactics and planning. He documented lessons in writing and encouraged staff to develop improvements for future operations. This continuous learning process contributed to the increased efficiency and effectiveness of Third Army units as the war progressed. Patton's death curtailed further contributions he might have made to military thought and post-war planning. It also prevented him from participating in debates that shaped early Cold War strategy, where his views on Soviet intentions may have influenced policy discussions. Nevertheless, his existing writings and recorded experiences provided a substantial foundation for ongoing analysis. The historical significance of Patton's career lies not only in his victories, but also in the debates his leadership continues to generate. Scholars study his actions to understand the relationship between aggressive strategy and operational risk, the role of personality in command, and the effects of leadership style on soldier morale and performance. His career encourages examination of how military leaders can maintain discipline while recognizing human limitations. Patton's operational record demonstrates the value of rapid and flexible maneuver in modern warfare. His approach challenged adversaries by forcing them to react under pressure rather than initiate action. This emphasis on initiative remains central to military doctrine, reinforcing the importance of seizing and maintaining the momentum in combat. Public interest in Patton reflects ongoing fascination with leadership during crisis. His speeches and conduct convey a message of urgency and purpose that resonates with audiences confronting difficult challenges. His legacy highlights the enduring connection between military history and broader cultural understanding of determination, sacrifice, and responsibility. While the most dramatic episodes of his career received much attention, analysis of his administrative and organizational work also reveals important contributions. His reforms in discipline, logistics, and training helped transform units into effective fighting forces. He demonstrated that success in battle requires preparation across all aspects of military operations. The evolution of Patton's image over time illustrates how public memory changes with new perspectives. Interpretations of his actions continue to incorporate advancements in psychological understanding, political awareness, and ethical standards. His story encourages ongoing discussion about how to evaluate leaders who achieve significant success while also displaying notable flaws. Patton's gravesite in Luxembourg remains a prominent location of remembrance. Veterans, family members, and visitors recognize his role in the war and his service to the United States. Monuments and memorials commemorate his contributions and encourage reflection on the cost of global conflict. In comparing Patton with other World War II commanders, historians note that each leader brought distinct strengths to the Allied effort. While Patton excelled in operational manoeuvre, others excelled in planning, logistics coordination, or coalition diplomacy. The combined efforts of these leaders contributed to victory, demonstrating that diverse skills were required to address the challenges of the global conflict. Patton's relationship with the press reflects the balance between transparency and discretion during wartime. His frank communication style provided clarity to troops but sometimes conflicted with broader messaging objectives. His experiences highlight the role of media in shaping public understanding of military operations and the need for coordination between military and civilian leadership. Patton's career illustrates that success in war often requires continuous evaluation of both external threat and internal organizational effectiveness. His commitment to readiness ensured that his forces could respond effectively to unexpected developments. His insistence on direct engagement with battlefield conditions supported timely adjustments to tactics and strategy. In retirement, or post-war roles, Patton might have continued to influence military policy and doctrine. His experience and writing suggest that he would have remained vocal about national security issues. Although his life ended abruptly, his ideas continued to shape military thinking in the United States and among Allied nations. The story of George S. Patton remains relevant to discussions about leadership, conflict, and decision-making. His successes demonstrate the potential impact of determined and innovative command, while his controversies remind observers that leadership requires reflection, restraint, and adaptation to changing circumstances. Patton's professional life was marked by intense dedication to the practice and theory of warfare. He understood that modern combat required not only bravery, but also coordination among different military branches, effective logistics, and rapid decision-making. His work contributed significantly to the development of mechanized warfare, and the operational structures he championed influenced global military doctrine for decades after the war. His belief in maintaining constant readiness was based on an understanding that threats could emerge without warning. Even in the final weeks of the war, he continued to request opportunities to engage remaining enemy forces. He expressed a view that sustained pressure could prevent future conflict by discouraging adversaries from attempting renewed aggression. This belief foreshadowed themes that would later become central to Cold War strategy. The complexity of Patton's personality is evident in the variety of reactions he continues to generate. Some consider him an ideal of military leadership, emphasizing his direct involvement with troops, his readiness to act decisively, and his willingness to accept responsibility for outcomes. Others view his disciplinary approach and controversial statements as cautionary examples of the need for balance and emotional awareness in leadership positions. His life story has been used in different contexts to illustrate distinct lessons. Military professionals often study his campaigns to understand operational maneuver and the importance of adapting to new conditions. Leadership programs explore his communication style, morale-building techniques, and expectations of subordinates. At the same time, discussions of ethics in command examine his shortcomings to reinforce the importance of supporting soldiers' mental health and maintaining professionalism in public and private statements. Patton's recognition of heroism among his soldiers contributed to their motivation. He emphasized that success in war relied on the efforts of many and frequently acknowledged the achievements of individual units. He awarded commendations personally and encouraged continued perseverance amid challenging operations. This acknowledgement of effort supported morale and cohesion within his command. Nevertheless, Patton sometimes struggled with the psychological toll experienced by those under him. His initial reaction to combat stress lacked the sensitivity now recognized as essential to addressing the mental health of service members. Modern interpretations of these events help clarify how understanding of psychological trauma has progressed over time and how leadership practices have evolved accordingly. As a historical figure, Patton remains a subject of extensive analysis. Archives containing his diaries, letters, and operational correspondence continue to support scholarship. These documents reveal the depth of his study, his personal reflections on warfare, and his willingness to revise opinions when evidence required it. They also provide insight into the challenges of reconciling private beliefs with public responsibility. Patton's legacy includes ongoing evaluation of leadership styles. Some scholars argue that his approach would be less effective in contemporary environments that emphasize collaboration and sensitivity to complex social dynamics. Others maintain that his ability to achieve results in difficult conditions demonstrates qualities that remain valuable. These perspectives reflect broader discussions about how leadership must adapt to changing expectations while preserving essential principles of discipline and responsibility. His presence in cultural memory reinforces the idea that individual leaders can shape the course of history. However, historians emphasize that Patton's success depended on the contributions of countless soldiers, support personnel, and fellow commanders. Patton's own statements acknowledged that coordinated effort provided the foundation for victory. His legacy is therefore connected not only to personal accomplishments, but also to the collective actions of those who served with him. Memorials and museums dedicated to World War II frequently include exhibits about Patton. Artifacts from his career, including documents, vehicles, and uniforms, offer tangible connections to his life and achievements. These exhibitions encourage new generations to learn about the war and understand the challenges faced by those who participated in it. Patton's influence on global military thought ensures that his contributions remain relevant. His ideas about maneuver warfare and rapid exploitation of enemy weaknesses continue to appear in strategy discussions. International military institutions study his campaigns to analyse how operational leadership functions under the pressures of large-scale conflict. His career also highlights the importance of context in evaluating leadership. The urgency and uncertainty of global war demanded rapid, confident action, qualities that Patton possessed. However, the transition to peace required different skills: diplomacy, restraint, and nuanced communication that did not align as closely with his personal strengths. The contrasts between these environments reveal the diverse demands placed on military leaders. Patton's written reflections suggest that he understood the paradox of leadership, the need to maintain confidence while recognizing the weight of responsibility. He often discussed the emotional difficulty of ordering troops into danger and expressed respect for those who endured combat. His emphasis on courage acknowledged both physical bravery and the mental strength required to confront fear. In conclusion, George S. Patton's life and career demonstrate the profound impact that individual leadership can have on military operations and historical outcomes. His successes in North Africa, Sicily, France, and Germany contributed significantly to the Allied victory in Europe. His innovative approach to mechanized warfare influenced the development of armoured forces and shaped modern doctrine. At the same time, Patton's controversial actions and statements illustrate the complexities of command in politically sensitive environments. His struggles to adjust to post-war responsibilities and diplomatic expectations reveal the challenges military leaders face when transitioning from combat operations to administrative roles. Patton remains a subject of significant interest in both scholarly and public contexts. His legacy encourages ongoing study of leadership, strategy, and the interplay between personality and performance. By examining both his accomplishments and his flaws, historians and military professionals gain a deeper understanding of the demands of command during one of the most consequential conflicts in human history. George S. Patton's story endures because it reflects not only the triumphs and challenges of war, but also the enduring human search for meaning, purpose, and effectiveness in the face of extraordinary responsibility. His contributions to the United States Army and to Allied victory remain historically significant, ensuring his place among the most notable military commanders of the 20th century.